What do you believe right now that's making you feel this way? And when you analyse it, you realise how irrational you can be at times.
Every single one of our major customers and minor customers all shut their doors overnight.
It's not sales per se, but the outcome of it is, because people get to know you, they get to see you.
But, what's the culture like at the business? What do we stand for, the values?
I've got to tick that box on my personal development program I don't really want to be here.
Scaling up a business isn't easy. If it were, we wouldn't have less than 4% of businesses scaling beyond 10 employees or around £1 million turnover level, and less than 1% beyond 50 employees. But the contribution that we make as owner-managers to our economies is immense and should never be underestimated, yet it can be a tough gig for all of us at times, and only other business owners truly understand the challenges that we face. And through ScaleUp Radio, we aim to help make things a little easier. We interview guests who have been where you are now and may have faced some of the challenges that you are facing. And they offer their thoughts and advice on what has worked for them, as well as what didn't. And we've also combined many of the lessons from these interviews, and also through working with hundreds of owner managers over the last 10 years or so, into a practical scale-up handbook that we've called the Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System, or ESUS. And it's for owner managers like you and me as we navigate our own scale-up journey. And you can order a copy through your favourite online book retailer, or by going to all the W's, esusgroup.co.uk, www.esusgroup.co.uk. We turn to luxury cruise market, this time on ScaleUp Radio, and I talk with James Cole, who is the founder of Panache Cruises. And it's not his first rodeo. He's also built up and exited from a very successful cruise business. Before lockdown, he exited it. And at that point, they had 200 employees and £100 million turnover. So he's not new to the industry and indeed new to business. So there's some really great lessons in here, as well as some aside conversations around some fantastic examples of luxury cruise holidays. And if nothing else, you're going to come away from listening to this interview wanting to go on one of these cruises, I'll tell you. But some really good business lessons along the way. And James seems to like making life difficult for himself. He started his first business 6 months before the Lehman Brothers crash and the depression that resulted then. And he's started this business during lockdown. So he likes to make life difficult for himself. And he's already built Panache to be £15 million turnover with a solid EBITDA and 40 employees already. So some really rapid success, knows what he's doing. Definitely worth listening to this interview. Welcome to another episode of ScaleUp Radio. I'm delighted to be joined today by James Cole, who is the founder and MD of Panache Cruises. So James, welcome to ScaleUp Radio.
Hi, Kevin. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, you're welcome. So Panache Cruises, there's a little bit of a clue in the name, but what's it all about? What do you do?
Yeah, Panache Cruises is a cruise retail business. We focus on the higher end of cruising. So we focus on the luxury and ultra luxury end of the cruise market. I've got a lot of experience in the overall cruise market. I've been in the cruise industry for the last 25 years, but I founded Panache Cruises. We sold our first cruise holiday in July 20. So we were a baby of the pandemic, which was, a lot of people have said to me, why did you set up a new cruise retail business during the pandemic? It was a good time to start. There were a lot of people looking for employment, and there were a lot of customers who were disgruntled with their current retail partner or the cruise lines, and we were there to help people out. So it was a really successful way to start our business.
Excellent. And can you give us a flavour for the feel for the size? How far have you come in that time with, what's that, two and a half years, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, in 2.5 years, we've grown the business. We started off typical entrepreneurial startup. We started off remotely, of course, to start off within the pandemic. Hence, Zoom and Teams were very useful. But the first office was my garage. Can you believe it? Reminiscent of a number of other entrepreneurs in the past. But we've scaled that to there's just over 40 of us now in the business.
Wow.
Today actually is the last day of our third financial year, and we'll close the books on a turnover of £15 million. So, and a decent six-figure EBITDA number as well. So, we're really pleased with where we are. The cruise market is back up and running, and we're just pushing forward.
Very impressive and rapid growth. There's going to be lots of questions there about how you handle growing to 40 people in such a short period of time. But maybe I'll come on to those in a moment. So how does the business model work? How does the money flow?
Yeah, so basically we advertise our cruise holiday. So we work, like I say, with the more luxury and ultra luxury cruise lines. So our average selling price tends to be about £15,000 a booking. We advertise in what you might call traditional mediums these days, the likes of Google and Bing and other digital channels and social channels to attract customers. And to get them into our marketing funnel. We then give customers a lot of content, relevant content, bespoke content, individualized content to them, to try and attract them to our website, to put offers in front of them. And then we get customers to call us or email us or contact us via our chat facility. And then we actually take them offline and we give them what some people call good old-fashioned customer service. So we introduce each of our customers to their very own cruise connoisseur, who's there with them from that first moment of contact right the way through to them returning from their cruise holiday. So we don't hide behind the fact that we are a direct sell operation, a call center, as you might call it. We don't have an IVR. There's no press 1 for this, press 2 for that. You just ring a number, the phone rings and somebody answers. Yes, there's a sophisticated phone system sat behind that that's recording all calls and trying to route people through to the right person, skills-based routing, etc. But at the end of the day, we use digital means to attract people, and then we take them offline to service them. And our motto is nothing is too much trouble, and we absolutely go out of our way to give people very high-end customer service, and it really does pay dividends for us.
Brilliant. And how does it work with the cruise lines themselves? How does that relationship work?
So again, we've got fantastic relationships with all of our cruise line partners, and we work in two different ways. As a retailer, they give us a commission for selling their product, so we get paid a commission on what we sell. And the cruise lines help us with marketing as well. And if we hit targets, we might get a little bit of a kickback. But also we can work as a tour operator. So that's when we package up our own cruise holidays, where we take the room from the cruise line, we'll take an airline seat. We might take a hotel or a land-based tour and package that up into something bespoke and unique that we can sell as a tour operator product. So those are the two ways that we sell cruise holidays. And
if you with the second one, do you have to commit to paying before you've actually sold it, if you like? Does the cash flow work the wrong way with that one?
Not necessarily, Kevin. It's usually an open inventory, so it's you book rooms on a cruise ship on a first come first served basis, and that tends to be a worldwide inventory model. So if there's only take a top suite on a cruise ship, the owner's suite it's sometimes called. If there's only one of those and a customer wants to definitely go in the owner's suite on a specific sailing, they have to get in very early, because obviously the whole world is open to that inventory, and there's only one of them. So you can commit to pay up front and take an allocation, but we certainly don't do that at this moment in time.
Great. So what's the real needs of your customer? What's your ideal customer, and what do they really want from the experience?
Yeah, so I guess our typical customer is somebody who is coming up for retirement, or they're taking some downtime from work. They perhaps own a business and they've just taken a bit of a back seat, or of course they've retired, and they want to see the world. They want to experience different things. The great thing about cruising is it's almost like backpacking in a way, in that you can see loads of different places in a short space of time. You unpack only once though, and of course, if you book on one of our cruise ships or our cruise line partners, you're doing it in absolute ultra luxury. So you're eating Michelin star quality meals, you're drinking fine wines, the finest cognacs and champagnes, etc., and you're getting fantastic service as well. So what better way to see the world? And of course, if you see a part of the world that you particularly like, but you might only be there for a day or two on a cruise ship, you might then go back on a land-based holiday and spend some more time there and explore it in a little bit more detail. So we tend to attract those people that are looking to travel a little bit more, see the world, tick off some bucket list items. And our ultimate aim is to, service what we call serial cruisers. So people who have decided that's how they're going to spend their spare time. They've worked hard all their lives, the kids have left home, they've perhaps paid off the mortgage, and what they want to do is they want to, travel the world and perhaps go on 6, 7, 8, even 10 cruises a year, and do that in luxury or ultra luxury.
Well, I'm sure there's a few people like me listen to this and think, wishing that we were in that situation at the minute. That would be that sounds wonderful. What's the most luxurious cruise you've got on your package, if you like, that you've got on your books?
Well, it depends. It's one of those things, cruising. There's a cruise out there for everyone, and what somebody sees as luxurious might not be what somebody else sees as luxurious. But certainly we sell rooms on cruise ships that can sell for £10,000-15,000 per night.
Wow.
That give you a huge amount of space. Some of the rooms are up to 4,000 square foot, so that's like the size of a really big 5-bedroom house.
Absolutely.
You've got perhaps a Steinway piano in there. You might have Picasso paintings in there. You've got your own bar. You've of course got your own butler as well to look after you.
Of course.
When you get into the port, you'll have a driver there waiting for you that'll take you to any place you want to go. So there's a huge variation in what you do. One of the cruise ships that I was on recently has 2 helicopters on board and a submarine. So it's, if you want to explore the Antarctica, for example, why not do it in a submarine and fly over and enjoy things from a bird's eye view on a helicopter. So cruising is different to what it was 20 years ago. There is genuinely a cruise out there for every single person. It's just that we have to find it for them, and that's our job, is to speak to people, understand who they are, how they normally holiday, and if they are new to cruise, make sure we give them the right advice, make sure we give them accurate advice for them, and put them on the right cruise ship for them. And we find then that they usually enjoy the product, have a fantastic time, and can't wait to go again.
Brilliant. And how competitive is the market? What's how hard do you have to work to get the business? What's going on in the cruising world?
Yeah, it is a competitive industry, but it's a growing industry. When I started in the cruise industry back in 1998, there were around about 500,000, perhaps 600,000 or 700,000 passengers, cruise passengers who cruised from the UK citizens who took a cruise. That grew to 2 million in 2019.
Wow.
And we're back at 1.7 million in 2022. So we're back to nearly pre-pandemic levels. But the market that we operate in, that luxury and ultra luxury market, is set to double in size between now and the end of the decade. And cruise has always been a supply-led industry. So the more rooms that are out there, the more cruise ships that there are sailing, the more people that get attracted because of the differentiation of cruising, differentiation of cruise ships. Right. I was on a cruise ship recently that there were the 9,000 people on board a cruise ship. Can you believe that? 9,000 people on board, 6,000 customers, 3,000 crew, 41 bars and restaurants on board, and it was absolutely amazing. There was not one queue in the full week that I was on board. Absolutely amazing. You know, the cruise lines are so innovative and so specialized in how they manage crowds on board the ship. You know, you think 9,000 people, it's just going to be overrun with people. It absolutely isn't. You know, people are spread out and they're managed in a way that the cruise lines know where people are going to go to, and you don't believe for 1 second there's so many people on a cruise ship.
And you've effectively got one member of staff for every 2 customers, by the sounds of it, from what you.
That's correct. Yeah. The cruises that we tend to sell though are smaller cruise ships. They tend to hold less than 1,000 people, right down to the smallest cruise ship we would work with would hold 30 or 40 people on board. So again, that it comes back to, what do you want out of a holiday? You know, do you want the selection of restaurants, 41 bars and restaurants, or are you comfortable with one restaurant on board? You know, that's just one of the things that we'd discuss with a prospective customer.
Great. So what are some of the big challenges that you face in this industry then?
Yeah, cruising's an interesting industry because I think, you know, I've been in the industry, like I say, for 25 years, and I still speak to people that still have those archetypal myths of cruising. Oh, cruising's for old people. Oh, you get herded around like sheep. Oh, it's claustrophobic on board. Oh, I'll fall overboard. Oh, it's very expensive. Oh, you'll tell me when I have to dine. All of these things that if you've never been on a cruise ship, you probably resonate with. Right. With what I'm saying here, but in actual fact, those are all complete and utter rubbish. And as soon as you get on the right cruise ship for you, you're gonna have a great time. It's like any product. You know, you've just got to match the right customer with the right product, and if you do that, you know, there's a recipe for success there. But yeah, attracting new people into the cruise industry has been a challenge since I joined the industry 25 years ago.
And what sort of things do you do to find new people?
Yeah, I think comparing cruises of today with other holiday types, you know, so if somebody goes to a nice all-inclusive land-based resort, let's compare that to a cruise. Let's look at the differences that you get. Let's look at the pluses and minuses. Let's look at the costs. Let's look at the quality of food, the quality of drink that you get on board, the quality of service. A cruise obviously takes you to different places, and many times your excursions are included in that cost. And, you know, let's compare it to what people are used to and what they normally do, and let's see if we can persuade someone to try a cruise. You know, perhaps try a 7-night cruise around the Mediterranean. You know, that tends to be a lot of people's entry into cruising, whereas, you know, a 14-night Antarctic adventure where you have to fly into South America and, you know, you've got to navigate the Drake's Passage, and, you know, it all looks a little bit of an adventure or an expedition, might not be everybody's cup of tea for their first cruise. So, you know, start with something a bit more straightforward and a bit more simple, and just compare it to what they normally do for holidays.
Brilliant. Take us back to what got you started with Panache.
Oh, geez. Right, Kevin. Yes. So I've been in the industry for 25 years. I joined a company called Air Tours Holidays that became My Travel. I joined there in November 1997, straight from university, and I quickly started to work for their cruise business, their cruise line, called Air Tours Sun Cruises. We were the second biggest cruise line in the UK. And I've never left the industry since then. So I worked for a cruise operator, a cruise line then. We then, at My Travel, opened up a cruise retail business called the Cruise Store that we grew pretty quickly in 3 years we were turning over £100 million. Wow. I then merged that business on behalf of My Travel with Thomas Cook's business that sold cruises as well. I left Thomas Cook after about 5 months. It just wasn't the business that suited me and the way I worked. And I set up my own business, the first business I started for myself with my business partner, Mal, in 2008 called Cruise 118. We then started a luxury business called 6 Star Cruises. And a river brand called River Voyages. And over a period of 10 years, from 2008 to 2018, we grew that business to be a £100 million plus revenue business with over 200 employees. And then in 2018, I sold my final shareholding to a company called World Travel Holdings, Inc., that are the world's biggest seller of cruise holidays. They sell over $1 billion of cruising a year. And I sat out a non-compete during 2018 and 2019. And during that period, I came up with the idea of Panache Cruises. I could see that the luxury and ultra-luxury market was going to grow exponentially. I could see how digital marketing could help. I could see how offline customer service and giving people, bespoke advice and really giving them high-end service could work as well. And we could attract repeat bookers by giving that high level of service. And that's really where Panache Cruises came from. And like I say, we've been pretty successful. We're only just almost 3 years old, but yeah, we're on a really good path. We've got a long way to go, but it's been pretty successful so far.
Brilliant. Well, a phenomenal journey. So maybe let's go back to when you set up Cruise 118 and 6 Star Cruise and River Voyages and built that to be 100 million, 200 employees. What are some of the key learnings from building a business of that size and then exiting it? What are some of the key milestones and learnings, would you say?
Yeah, there's a lot, Kevin, because there's a lot goes on in 10 years, and when you say it in a couple of sentences, it sounds like it's a really quick journey and it was all pretty straightforward. But within 6 months of setting up the business, we sold our first cruise in June or July 2008. Within 10 weeks, Lehman Brothers had gone under, and within 6 months, we were running out of cash. So we were in a pretty desperate situation. Within 6 months, having raised £1 million in startup funding to start the business. So the absolute number one learning there was resilience. Yeah, and just keep going. I think, Churchill once said, if you're going through hell, keep going. And, trust me, in the early days of Cruise 118, we were going through absolute hell. The world's biggest recession hit us front on, and, we nearly went out of business. And it was just sheer dogged determination and not accepting failure that got us through. Nothing else. We didn't do anything smart. We just kept going. Every single day was a challenge for a good 18 months, 2 years, but we just kept fighting. We kept going and we never gave up, and we got through it. And, I'm here to tell the other side of the story, which is that particular period of my career was the hardest. There's no doubt about it. There's a lot of lessons in there and a lot of lessons learnt, and I wouldn't be where I am now, and I wouldn't have learnt the lessons for Panache if I hadn't have gone through that hardship. So, it wasn't a failure. It wasn't a negative. Now that I look back, it was a massive learning curve that we went through.
And I think that's a really good point, because people say, if if you can start a business, or in a recession, which is kind of what you did, or very shortly afterwards, it came, then if you can survive and even thrive in a recession, then you're probably well set up for when things lift. Compared with a business that starts up in the good time and then hits a hard point. So what do you think you learned in structuring and running the business in times of hardship that you continued through to make that success? What do you think are some of the key points there?
Yeah, I think you've got to have resilience as an entrepreneur. You've got to have your wits about you. You've got to have a mentality that you can shift very quickly, and you can rethink what you're doing. You can't be overly surprised when things hit you hard. You don't have time to moan about things or feel sorry for yourself. There's always that, because we're all emotional, whether we want to admit it or not. There's time that we felt really bad for ourselves. We were emotional about it, but at the end of the day, you've got to find solutions, and you've got to be creative, and you've got to find ways, and you've got to speak to people, and you've got to get help, and you've just got to use everything in your arsenal to get through that day, or get through that week, or get through that month, because that's what's important when you're fighting hard. It's great that you might have a nice strategic plan that tells you how many millions you might be turning over in a few years, but if you've got to fight for your lives, you've got to be a different beast, haven't you? You've got to adapt to your surroundings.
Great. So what did you learn about building a business with that number of people? So over 10 years, 200 employees. How do you go about making sure that everybody's going in the right direction, the boat's still going in the right direction, if I can say that, and that you're keeping control of things? What did you learn about that?
Again, I think that just comes with experience, doesn't it? And again, certainly as we're growing Panache, I've got a lot of learning experiences from what I learned in my corporate, 10 years in my corporate career, and then 10 years building one of the UK's biggest cruise retailers. And when you're growing, you start off, of course, literally as one person or a couple of you, and you're doing everything. You're literally sweeping up at night and turning the lights out yourself, to eventually being the CEO of 200 people or a £100 million operation. And to get that, it's a big journey, and you've got to go through a lot of different phases of growth. And I think that is where you need a plan. Where do I want to be in 5 years' time? Where can I see this business being in 5 years? And if I can see where it is in 5 years, I should be able to plot back to what I need to do today to keep me on that path to getting the business to 5 years. So I think that's always a big learning, and it's a process that we're going through now at Panache Cruises. We know exactly where we'd like to be, even out to 2030, we know where we'd like to be. So we're planning now on what we need to do now to make sure we stay on that path. Because of course, if we don't do certain things now, it's going to affect us in 6 months or 12 months or 18 months down the line, because certain things need to happen now that just take a little bit of time to bed in or take an effect. So strategic planning is absolutely crucial as well. And, it's something that I'm a big fan of.
Okay. And on that journey, before Panache, what were some of the key inflection points, if you like, the key milestones? You said different phases. So what were some of those milestones?
Yeah, so we obviously started off with all the intentions of growing a mainstream cruise retailer, Cruise 118. We came into some trouble, some headwind, to put it mildly, with the world's greatest recession, and Lehman Brothers crashing down on us. But then we came up with some new brands. So we came up with the idea of 6-star cruises, which was to focus on the ultra luxury market, which turned out to be, the jewel in our crown in the end. It really was a fantastic brand. We grew that over a period of 9 years to be Europe's biggest seller of ultra luxury cruises, and that really helped develop our overall business and really helped drive that forward. So that was definitely a critical point. Right. But I think, again, building a team around you as well. I've never really been scared about having people around me that know more about things than I do. That's great as far as I'm concerned. People who are completely different characters than me. Again, that's great. People who are potentially hard to manage, but deliver results. Again, it's just having good people around you that enable you to take the business forward. If everybody is the same as you and looks like you and acts like you, then is that really a good team? Do you have all your bases covered? Are you looking at everything from different perspectives? Because I'm not perfect, far from it. But other people can fill voids that I leave behind. So, it's just making sure that you build a team around you that is fit for the future and covers all the different bases.
Great. And what did the basic structure of the business look like in terms of the org chart at 200 people? How many people did you have directly reporting to you, and how was the business structured roughly below that?
Yeah, roughly half a dozen people reporting to me. So, whether that was, finance director, an operations director, somebody who looked after the cruise lines, someone who looked after sales, for example, just a team of half a dozen people that were absolutely focused on a strategic level of working on the business rather than in the business. Again, I think that's really, really critical, that you've got to find as an entrepreneur you've got to work in the business and on the business on day one, because you might be the only person who's there in the business, or one of, as I was at Panache, one of perhaps half a dozen people. So you do have to do certain things. And, as we've grown, as we grew Cruise 118 and as we're growing Panache Cruises, you've got to decide when you as the leader need to step away from working in the business and start to work on the business. And then when your senior team start to do the same as well. These are critical milestones that you come across as you're growing a business from being an entrepreneurial startup to being a more corporate enterprise.
And did you have any particular rules of thumb for team sizes and how you built the teams below that level? I
think it completely depends on the department that you're working in. So, our sales team, for example, people who are talking to customers, we'd probably have groups of 10 or 12 people who report to a particular manager. But of course, in finance, let's say, it might be 2 people report to a manager. So again, I think that just depends what kind of responsibility you have, and whether you need to have people reporting to you. Because of course, some people don't have any human resource, any colleagues reporting to them, but they might have external parties reporting to them, or they might be responsible for IT systems. It just depends what your role is, I guess.
So it sounds like a maximum of 10 to 12 in under one particular leader, if you like, or team leader. Yeah, something like that. That
was certainly from my experience. Yeah. That's what we had. Yes.
Good. So can I explore the exit a little bit? What did you learn about the exit? Because that's probably, was that the first exit that you've had? I mean, you did a couple of things.
It was. Yeah, so me and my business partner sold part of our business from 2010 to 2015. Oh. Then my business partner, Mal, exited the business in I think 2016. It might have been 2015, and then I decided to exit in March 2018. So I was selling my final, what was then a minority shareholding in the business. And all along we've been selling the shares to the same entity, World Travel Holdings Inc., based out of the States. So it was a fairly natural thing. You know, it was something that we had planned on doing, or that I'd planned on doing for a while. It just happened to be that March 2018 was that month where I sold my final shareholding and exited the business.
Great. So, what surprised you, or what did you learn about that exit process that maybe, given your time again, you might learn from or do differently?
Yeah, I think I definitely think twice about giving up majority shareholding. I think that's something, a big rule that a big consideration I'd give moving forward. You know, and at Panache Cruises, I have a majority shareholding, and I intend to remain a majority shareholder for the distant future. You know, having control of your own business is very important. And I think at the start, it's quite easy to think that, do you know what, I'll just give up a little bit of equity. Or if somebody gives me what at the time appears to be a significant amount of money, you know, for you to give up majority shareholding, you know, just look at the business plan, have some confidence in yourself that you're going to deliver that business plan. That's why you're in business, to deliver that plan. And, you know, are you really doing yourself justice? Do you really want to step over losing the majority share? Because that's a big deal. Going from 51% ownership to 49% ownership is a big deal, and you know, you need to make sure and challenge yourself that that's the right thing to do. So that's definitely a big learning from me. Interesting.
Were there any particular points at which that became a big deal, or that you're thinking of?
Well, I think it just becomes a little bit more difficult, doesn't it? You know, at the end of the day, every business or every entity or every piece of work even, or every department needs somebody who is going to own it, and somebody who's going to drive that forward and be responsible for it. If it's your business, you should own that business. You should drive it forward. If you think you own a business and think you're driving it forward, but somebody else has the majority, you might be in for a bit of a shock one day, if you don't agree, or, you know, things start creeping in. You know, if you own it, you can take it forward as you see fit. And of course, I have non-exec directors at Panache Cruises, and I absolutely respect their advice, and I respect any comments they can give to me. But they also respect that I'm the leader of the business, and you know, I'll take that advice and I'll drive it forward sometimes. But sometimes I'll challenge it, and we'll perhaps go in a different direction. So yeah, I think it's a huge thing, staying in control of your own business.
Great stuff. And just again on that exit, well, what in different industries have different rules of thumb for valuing businesses? You know, what are the key factors taken into consideration to value a business in your industry?
Well, I guess any business is only worth what somebody's willing to pay for it, Kevin, isn't it? That's the first thing. So I've heard of all sorts of stories from my accountants about, you know, somebody thought their business was worth X amount, and what do you base that on, mate? What's your basis? Oh, well, that's what I need to retire. That's what I need to retire, you know. So, you know, I'd always make sure that somebody takes some external advice on what the business is worth. You know, don't get carried away yourself, and just make sure you've got some independent sanity check on the valuation of the business. You know, that's sort of the first thing I'd certainly say. But in the travel industry, again, it depends whether you're getting a trade buyer or whether you're going for private equity, but it tends to be on a multiple multiple of EBITDA. And of course, that multiple depends on, how you differentiate yourself, what sort of technology you use, what markets you operate in, what your growth is, what's the prospective growth of the business. There's a huge number of levers that can determine whether you're a multiple of, 4 or 40, I guess. It just depends, doesn't it? So that there's many different levers that go into determining the value of a business. But again, your business is only worth, it's like share dealing, isn't it? Your shares are only worth the cash that's in your bank when you've sold them. It's all right to say it's worth this on a piece of paper, but it's not really worth anything until you've sold it, is it?
Yeah, absolutely. And how did you get comfortable that the value that World Travel Holdings were willing to pay? How did you get to feel comfortable that was the right sort of level?
Well, again, there's a lesson, Kevin. There's a lesson. If you're a minority shareholder and you're up against a majority shareholder, you've got to get comfortable pretty quickly with what they offer you, haven't you? Being serious. Again, trusting your business partners is something that's really important. And I had a good working relationship with WTH Inc. For 10 years. But don't get me wrong, we had our tricky moments. There was some difficulties that we needed to deal with, and we did all that pretty professionally. And at the end of the day, we agreed a valuation and we signed on that. But I was more having to rely on them rather than me being in control of the transaction, which of course, if I'd have been a majority shareholder, that would have been perhaps a different conversation.
Okay, fair enough. Brilliant. So fast forwarding now then to Panache Cruises, so what are some of the key lessons that you've brought on board from going through that experience beforehand?
Yeah, it's really interesting, Panache Cruises, because we started in the pandemic. So I didn't meet in person some of our employees, some of my colleagues, for about 6 or 9 months in person. Everything was done over Zoom, interviews, meetings, etc. They're all done over Zoom because, of course, we couldn't get together, we couldn't meet in person because of all the lockdowns, etc. So that was interesting how we started the business. But I wanted to start this business with a different mentality. So coincidentally, in November 2019, my youngest daughter was born. So when I started on the business plan for the pandemic, she was about 3-5 months old, something along those lines. So I was determined that I wasn't going to be spending 24 hours a day, 7 days a week working on my business. That is what's drilled into people who start a new business. You must work all the hours in the day. You must work 7 days a week. You must never go on holiday. Otherwise, you will not have a successful business. That's what basically the manuals say. That's bullshit. As far as I'm concerned. There are other ways to do it. You can have a balance. So my new way of approaching things, which was different than my old way, because I fell into the rat race, the trap of, being in the office at 7 and leaving at 7 and working at weekends. I've done all that. I've got the T-shirt, but I was convinced that I wasn't going to do that at Panache. So I know my alarm's set for 5 o'clock. I'm at my desk for 5:30. I worked from 5:30 to 7 a.m. On the most important things, the 3 most important things I need to do in the day before I'm getting bothered by anyone else. I then have breakfast with my wife and my kids. I take my youngest to nursery most days of the week. I then go into the office. I arrive in the office about 8:30 and 9 o'clock. I stay in the office. I do my relevant meetings, do any work that I need to. And then between 1 and 3 o'clock, I leave the office, and I leave the office to come home and go for a run, or Friday afternoons. I spend that with my daughter. Earlier this afternoon, I went for a walk with my kids and my wife and my dog, and I make sure I do other things. Now, my wife will tell you that my phone's still attached to me, so I'm not I'm not trying to plead that I'm perfect in any sort of way. I do still look at emails on my phone. I'm trying to get better at that. But what I do is just schedule in my diary, right, I'm going to go for a 3-mile run at 2:00 on Monday. I'm going to go for a 4-mile run at 3:00 on a Wednesday. I'm going to go for a 6-mile run at 1:00 on Thursday. And I schedule it in my diary. So I know I need to be home for that. And it's worked well. Have there been weeks where I've needed to work 100 hours? There absolutely have. Have there been weekends where I've needed to work? I probably won't do some work every weekend, but it's when I need to do it. Not, I don't feel I have to do it. So there is a different way, and it's about getting balance in your life. And that's what we get across to our colleagues as well. Do we sometimes expect them to work a long day or a long week, or put a really heavy month in because we've got a big project ongoing? Yeah, we absolutely do. That's called business, but we don't expect it all the time. We want people to have a life balance, and we really, really go out of our way to make sure that we do everything we can to give them the best possible life that they can have. And it's something that I'm really passionate about. And I've succumbed. I'm not on my first marriage, let's put it that way. Having 2 businesses previously, it's definitely been a contributing factor to not having a brilliant personal life, but I'm determined to make sure it's different, and it has been different so far at Panache Cruises.
Yeah, no, I love that, and I love the idea of working on those 3 most important things first thing. How do you define those 3 most important things? And is that something you do on the morning, or do you do that the day before? How do you do that? Work those out?
Yeah. Again, ideally I'd do it the night before. Just I tend to have. I've not got one here now, but just tend to have a post-it note, to be honest, and just jot down 3 things. Or if I'm out and about on a walk, I'll just open my notes on my phone and jot 3 things down that I need to do first thing in the morning. And then when I wake up, I'm motivated. I know I need to do these 3 things before 7:00. And again, if I can tick all 3 of them off before 7, that's brilliant. That's called fantastic progress. I'm really happy with myself. But you know what, Kevin, if I can tick off the most important thing I need to do that day, and the other 2 have to wait till the next day or the day after, I've made progress, haven't I? I'm moving in the right direction, and I've at least done or started the most important thing I wanted to do that day.
Yeah, excellent, very good. And have you always been an early morning riser? I have to say, for me, 5:30 is unknown territory almost. But have you always been?
Do you know what, Kevin? I am absolutely not a morning person. But what I've found is, if I set my alarm for 9:00 in the morning, I'm really bad at getting out of bed. And if I set my alarm at 5:00, I'm really bad at getting out of bed. So why not set it for 5:00?
Yeah. Yeah.
Just make sure you go to bed early. By the way, again, massive fan of getting 7 to 8 hours sleep a night. Make sure you're asleep at 9:30, 10:00 at the latest if you're going to do that. Yeah, don't be burning the candle at both ends.
Love it. So you clearly love the industry. What do you love most about the industry? You've been in it for a long time. What is it that keeps you in the cruise industry? What do you love most about it?
The cruise industry is unbelievable. It is hugely innovative in how it approaches things. Whether it's building bigger ships, whether it's putting certain facilities on a ship. There's go-kart tracks on a cruise ship now? Did you know that there's ice skating rinks that seat 1,500 people? I mentioned that there's 41 bars and restaurants on one ship. There's ships that go to Antarctica that I mentioned before have helicopters and submarines, and they can just hover in the water. They don't use anchors. They just, use global positioning, satellite navigation, so they can just stay in the same place, so they don't disturb the ocean bed. The industry is hugely innovative.
Yeah,
the people are absolutely fantastic. Clearly, we have competitors, but it's a very, very friendly industry to work in. All the competitors, who meet at industry events, launches of cruise ships, are all very friendly. So it's it's a hard working industry, and it's really, really pleasing to work with customers as well, because they love the product and they love the innovation and they love receiving great customer service from us as well. So it's just a great place to be.
Fantastic. And if you could change one thing, if you had your magic wand, what would you change about the industry?
Well, that's a good question, isn't it? What one thing would I change? Well, clearly the pandemic's not been brilliant for cruising, Kevin. So well, let's not say that, because that's probably quite an easy cop-out, isn't it? I don't know. I work hard every day to try and change people's perception of cruising. Yeah. And as long as I'm in the industry, I'll continue to do that. I'll continue to talk to people about cruising and about the popularity of it, and about how people can have a great time on the cruise, even though I have negative things to say, and I do truly believe there's a cruise out there for everyone. So I'll continue to try and challenge that misnomer, definitely.
And on that note, what's the legacy that you want to leave?
Yeah, I think Panache Cruises. We're just looking to build a reputable business that's been grown ethically, that's got some great people in there that can turn around in years to come and say, I worked for a great business. I learned a lot of things, and it set me up in my career. I hope that the cruise lines turn around and say we were a great partner, and that we worked in a partnership way with the cruise lines. And I hope our customers continue to work with us and just keep recommending us, because that's a great legacy, isn't it? And that's great feedback to receive, the fact that people recommend you and look forward to working with you. But yeah, it's just great to work with great people, to be honest, Kevin. And anything I can do to enhance someone's working life or life in general, that'll do me. If I can influence one or more, then happy days.
Brilliant, very good. And you're obviously a strategic planner. You like your strategic plan. So, if we're sat here in 5 years' time, back on ScaleUp Radio, what does good look like for you in 5 years' time?
Well, that'll take us to 2028, Kevin. So we'll have grown our business. We'll be doing tens of millions in terms of revenue. We'll be making a nice 7-figure EBITDA profit from a corporate perspective, but we'll be a great place to work. We'll be one of the best companies in the UK to work for. We were named as the 5th best workplace in travel last year. We've been shortlisted this year as one of the top 10 places to work in travel. We find out how well we've done in this year's survey. So that's really passionate. Thing of mine, that we continue on that as we grow, that we treat people as individuals and we look after people as individuals as we move to being more of a corporate enterprise. And we have fantastic relations with both our customers and our cruise line partners. So, the numbers are really important. Of course they are. We're all in business to make our shareholders profits, but we want to do it in the right way. We want to do it in an ethical way, and we want to do it by employing people who enjoy working for us as well. Brilliant,
fantastic. Well, I really enjoyed this, and I could probably keep asking you questions for a lot longer, because it's fascinating to listen to you. Are you all right for a couple of quick fire questions just to wrap us up?
Go on then.
Okay, so if you could go back to your younger self, what advice would you give yourself?
Yeah, just keep going. Just focus every day. Every day. Work hard. Have a plan. Even if it's a weekend, just have a plan for what you're doing that day. Get the most out of life. Because life is short. My best friend died last year, age 49, and it just it just tells you life is short, isn't it? You know, just live every day as if it's your last.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Brilliant. Books, podcasts. What? Anything you'd recommend to our listeners?
Yeah, sure. Well, of course, I've heard of this exceptionally good radio podcast called the Entrepreneurial ScaleUp System, which is fantastic, I've heard. So that's the first one I'd be recommending, Kevin. I don't know whether you've heard of that one at all.
Thank you, James. Very kind. Yep.
But in terms of books, I'm a big fan of the 5 a.m. Club. That's a great book to read. That's where I got some of my ideas about starting a little bit earlier. But any business book is great, isn't it? You know, if you're into reading and you're into self-development, but, you know, read it, digest it, and take out of it what's relevant for you. You know, not everything will be, but what's relevant for you. I'm a big friend of Shah Wasmond as well, a good personal friend of mine. She's written some great books as well, and you know, I'm really into psychology as well. So, you know, a good personal friend, family friend of mine, Mike Finnegan. You might want to Google him. He's had some extraordinary experiences which people can learn from as well. But yeah, overall, you know, you're never too old to learn. You know, I learn every day. I read every day, even if it might be just 5 or 10 pages of a book. You know, don't get dragged into the newspapers or you know, the news on the television. It's all bullshit. It's there to make people money. It's all negative. Don't get involved. Just focus on who you are and what you want to achieve, and everything else will take care of itself. Brilliant.
Good stuff. Any apps or bits of technology that you've found particularly useful?
Not overly. I mean, my wife would say I find my email app a bit too helpful on my phone. Yeah. But yeah, you've just got to be sensible, haven't you, with these things? There's all sorts of stuff to help out. I have an app that I can just, you know, do a quick dictate and it sends me an email if I, you know, so I'm reminded of things, that type of stuff. But yeah, just
is that things. Is that a particular app you've downloaded that's got a name, or is it just functionality on your phone?
Yeah, it's just some functionality on my phone. I can't remember the specific name of it, to be honest.
Brilliant. You mentioned Mike Finnegan already. Who would you say has been had the most influence on you as a leader?
Oh, well, that goes back to our ex-chairman at Cruise 118 and the old UK chief executive of my travel, a guy called John Bloodworth. A Texan who was a travel industry stalwart who brought a load of ideas over from the States. And he gave me some mentoring, some really good mentoring when I was in my late 20s, early 30s, that'll live with me forever. He became our chairman at Cruise 118, but sadly passed away in 2011. So he's no longer with us, but certainly his thoughts remain there in the background.
Fantastic. Great. And what's your most successful marketing or lead generation tactic?
Oh, well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Who said that 50% of my marketing works and 50% didn't? I just don't know which is which. I think it's marketing's a bit of that. I always find, you know, you know, some of it is easy to track, you know, PPC and you know, perhaps some of your social stuff, but it's always the synergy approach, you know, getting yourself out there on different channels and just trying to use a combination of statistics and analytics versus, you know, just raw gut feel on what's working. But it usually is a combination of multiple marketing channels. Our customers don't just come to us directly from a PPC link. You know, if you analyze their journey, they've probably touched, you know, 4, 5, even 10 or 12 times. So it's a difficult one to answer that, Kevin.
All right. No, brilliant. No, that's fantastic. I've really enjoyed talking with you, and certainly making me want to look a little bit more into the cruise cruise aspect, although I'm not sure I'll be quite into the one with the 4,000 square feet and the butler and the driver when we come into port. But it sounds absolutely amazing. How can people get hold of you or find out more about Panache Cruises if they would like to do so?
Yeah, really straightforward. Just jump on to panachecruises.com. There's a link on there. People can send me an email via the link, or my email address is james.cole@panachecruises.com. Really straightforward.
Brilliant.
Or you can find me on LinkedIn as well.
Super. James, thank you very much indeed for being my guest today.
It's been an absolute pleasure. Thank you, Kevin.
I hope you enjoyed that discussion, and if you're building and scaling your own business, you might well be interested in our book, The Entrepreneurial Scale-Up System. And it's exactly what it says on the tin. It's a practical handbook around scaling a business in a structured way. And you can order a copy on all your favorite online retailers, including an audio version, or you can find it and other supporting resources on our website, www.esusgroup.co.uk. That's esusgroup.co.uk, which is esusgroup.co.uk.
This has been a Monkey Pants Productions podcast.